Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options to Play video update. Uh, we had talked about this for the 1 to 2 weeks leading up to the election, how felt like people were a little bit more reluctant to move money around until there was a little bit more certainty about who the next president was going to be. Well, we are starting to move past the election, and while there isn't exactly a confirmed new president, it seems like people aren't as concerned as they once were. And over the last 3 days, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the reactions to earnings have been massive compared to what they were before. So definitely more interested going into this week for more earnings related trades. All right. And starting things off before the open on Monday, CGC. So this group in particular has really had an absolutely ridiculous few days. Friday, huge move in CGC, and it's going to make the earnings trade a little bit more complicated. So they're pricing in about 375 for next week, and I feel like from an earnings perspective, 375 seems high, based off what it typically moves. But I mean, like this sector is really coming to life after kind of like a quiet stretch. So I don't know if it's going to have a huge move on earnings, but from like a weekly priced in move, 375 doesn't seem too out of whack, right? Because you do have 4 days after. But with this and Tilray both reporting Monday, so Tilray's after the close on Monday, it might be worth it to look at like an ACB or an Afria as a sympathy trade because neither of those report next week, and the options overall should be cheaper. Also, Monday before the open at McDonald's, so a big name. About 8 points is what's priced in on this. I've personally had a tough time trading this year, and I have noticed that volatility seems to have dried up a lot around earnings recently. They did give preliminary comps just a few weeks ago, so I don't know if there's going to be a huge move on Monday. Also, restaurant stocks weren't really in play this quarter either, so I think I might just avoid it after the close on Monday. So Tilray, like I said, they're priced in 275, but you can see, I mean, just absolutely ridiculous move on Friday. So with Tilray after the close, CGC before the open, again, ACB, Afria, those might be like the two that I focus on. Beyond Meat, so about 19.5 points is what's priced in on this. This has fallen quickly over the past few weeks, and basically the strong start from October is completely gone. And it definitely can move on earnings. I mean, there have been some quarters where it's had a really big move, but with the stock pricing in like 19 and a half, almost 20 points, I mean, I think you really need to have conviction with the bull or bear side because I don't think option pricing leaves much room. And me personally, I don't have that strong of an opinion on it, and I'm not a huge fan of the current setup, so I'm thinking I might just leave it alone. Zoom info. So about 5.5 points is what's priced in, but those are monthly options. This had a really nice rebound, right? It started to shape up in September, kind of lost momentum, but chopping around. And I actually think this is kind of a good setup for a volatility strategy. It's maybe more so of like a make or break quarter in terms of the technical setup, and the option pricing doesn't seem too crazy to me either. So might look at a straddle or a strangle in this one. For the open on Tuesday, CyberArk, about 9.5 points is what's priced in on this. I've traded this a bunch in the past, and I guess that's the only reason why I really want to highlight it because I actually don't like the setup that much this quarter, but I have traded this quite a bit in the past around earnings. It's been range bound, and the cybersecurity names I feel like weren't too volatile this quarter. If I do anything with this, maybe it revolves around hopping in for a swing trade right after the numbers come out. If it looks like it's going to break the top of the range or break the bottom of the range, but I'm not sure that I'm going to lay out the money to actually take options into the report. SDGR. So about 7.5 points is what's priced in on this. Those are monthly options, though. It's really been a lagging stock for months, and earnings are going to be an opportunity to try and turn momentum around. It's not typically a huge mover when it reports, though, but this quarter I think is very make or break right now. Technically, the stock is below a lot of big levels, below most of its moving averages. So I think they really need to put up a strong quarter, and I think the stock needs to act strong or has like a nice reaction because there still is plenty of room to the downside if it really starts to pick up momentum. After the close on Tuesday, Datadog. So a big software report. 13.5 points is what's priced in on this. It got hit real hard last quarter, even after like a beat and raise print. So this to me seems like more of a wild card. So this was the move after last quarter. I do think numbers should be solid. I mean, last quarter again, beat and raise, but it's just tough to guess to gauge how high expectations are. And I think it's really going to have to be an excellent report to prevent a sell-off because, I mean, it basically did exactly that last quarter, right? Nice beat and raise, stock sold off. It's like expectations were high again. I'm kind of on the fence with it, and the setup overall doesn't seem too compelling. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of maybe a game time decision, but right now I'm leaning towards leaving it alone. Lyft. So 3 points is what's priced in. Prop 22 was the big catalyst for this in Uber. That's why it popped on Wednesday. Um, I guess I don't feel that earnings are going to be that much of a catalyst. I think that Prop 22 vote was very important. Uber did rally on earnings, but I don't know. I guess I haven't traded these that much, and overall, like the charts don't look that great. So I think I'd rather just leave this one alone and maybe revisit it if it sets up well for like a swing trade after the numbers. Rocket. 275 is what's priced in. I think this is an interesting one. I mean, actually, it was last quarter that basically marked the top, and then it's just been selling off. And they did actually crush it. So they guided early and went on a huge run, and they actually had a good quarter, but the stock dropped. So the fact that last quarter was strong, housing related numbers are still strong. I guess I do lean bullish, and a blow up print maybe helps get this thing going again. Help it turn the corner, get some momentum going. So I'm thinking something speculative bullish. Wednesday before the open, really only one name, Lemonade. 825 is what's priced in. Those are monthly options, though. Had a pretty ugly quarter actually in August for the first earnings release. So I think it's really going to have to be a lot better this time around, or the stock could be in trouble because it's a high valuation, and that first report was not good. I haven't traded in a couple months, and I guess I don't love the setup, but after last quarter, um, I do think that there's a potential for a big move, but I think the risk reward is skewed much more to the downside on it. After the close on Wednesday, Revolve. So 275 is what's priced in here. We caught an awesome trade on this into earnings and then actually on earnings last quarter. And to be honest, I feel like it could actually be set up for kind of something similar. I mean, they handily beat estimates last quarter. E-commerce names have been crushing it this quarter. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised to see a run ahead of time, possibly. Still some short interest on this too. I guess whether or not there's a trade on or into the actual print depends upon where the stock is the day of earnings. Vroom, a lot of new IPOs report next week. So 8 points is what's priced in on this. Those are monthly options, though. It's lost all of its momentum. It's sitting right above the low of the IPO. Definitely a make or break quarter in that sense. And option pricing is maybe a little bit high, but I do think that there could be a possible 10-point move here. I think it's that type of pattern that could warrant like a pretty big move. And I might look at a volatility strategy, but I would try to get risk down a bit on it if I did. Before the open on Thursday, another new issue, GoodRx. About 7 points is what's priced in this. Those are monthly options too. First report is a public company, and in that sense, it's kind of hard to say whether option pricing is high or low because there's nothing to compare it to. If they do have a surprisingly good or surprisingly bad quarter, could break this kind of tighter range it's been in the last few weeks. But it's more speculative. I mean, it hasn't been too volatile since it's come public, and again, I mean, I don't really know how it's going to react to earnings because it hasn't had an earnings before. So maybe something more speculative. Maybe I'll look at something cheap out of the money on both sides just to see if it does resolve this range. PDD. So 14.5 points is what's priced in. Prior to this week, might have been looking at a trade for earnings, but after this run, I don't think I'll touch it. I mean, the stock is just absolutely parabolic, and it's too crazy. Extended option pricing seems too high. Plus, last quarter wasn't that great, and I just it just seems like a tough overall setup, especially when factoring in the expensive options. Wix. So about 30 points was priced in on this. Those are monthly options, though. E-commerce play, been stuck sideways for a few months. It has been tricky around earnings in the past, and it got hit hard last quarter, but then had a huge rebound to finish flat, or just about flat. So that really crushed option players too. Um, 30 points. It doesn't seem that crazy from a pricing perspective, especially because they're monthly options. And if it can resolve this range, I imagine 30 points would probably end up being low. But it's going to have to be a clean report, which it hasn't really had. And there's a lot of question marks, so I definitely think this is like a higher risk setup. All right, after the close on Thursday, AMAT, big semi report. 375s was priced in here, and it just had a huge week. And maybe if it consolidates, I'll look at it, but it just, I mean, a stock like this, on a move like this, I mean, it just seems like a lot, and it probably needs to pause just to kind of work off the move. They did have a strong quarter last time, though, so if I did do anything with it, I think I might lean bullish, but it would have to consolidate because the chart's just too parabolic for me right now. Cisco, so definitely not parabolic. 225, what's priced in on this? Um, Pretty clear relative weakness. I mean, you can see since last quarter, it really struggled to rebound. And I think broken name, acting weak, coming off a weak quarter. I mean, it has some like parallels to Intel, and cheap stocks can definitely get cheaper, especially if people lose faith in the growth story or the turnaround story. So, option pricing seems decent, and maybe a volatility strategy, or even if like Cisco keeps rallying during the week, I might just look at maybe something just straight speculative bearish. Farfetch. So another one just absolutely parabolic this week. 7 points is what's priced in. Those are monthly options. Broke a huge multi-year resistance range around 31, 32, which was awesome for us because we were in it. Just ripped, too parabolic. I just, as much as like I like trading this name, and I have, and we've made good money on it. I mean, I just don't see a compelling earnings trade because the stock is just up way too much in a short period. So it does act very strong, and I feel like if it does pull back post earnings, I might look at it for a swing trade idea. Unity, so another new IPO. About 19 points is what's priced in. Those are monthly options. First report. So not really sure. If the options are priced high, priced low. Frog didn't get a whole lot of love on its earnings release, but these stocks like this and Frog have been diverging a little bit. They came out around the same time. That's why I've mentioned them together. But the Frog has been like losing some steam. Unity has been getting better. Um, I'm on the fence with it. Obviously you can see this, the stock is very strong, and it could be one of those hot IPOs that people just, they love to chase. But I feel like they're absolutely going to have to like crush estimates for it to do that. And I guess I'm just really on the fence with it. Disney is another big name. About 7 points was priced in on this. Last quarter had a huge move on earnings. Like significantly more, I think, than they were pricing in. And I felt like that move was maybe more due to like low expectations, like a low earnings bar. This quarter setup is slightly different, and it's to me it's hard to gauge where the expectations are because I don't think they're as low as they were last quarter. And option pricing it isn't ridiculously high, but it also isn't cheap. So this really just seems like a toss up. I don't have any idea what to make of it. It kind of to me it's kind of like a challenging overall setup. So I'm on the fence. I'm leaning towards leaving it alone, but I mean I'll see how the week goes. I'll see if option pricing moves at all, and then maybe make a kind of like a game time decision on it. And then last but not least, Friday before the open, DraftKings, another big name. About 475 is what's priced in on this. And I guess the major issue I have with DraftKings is just I just don't know if it's like an earnings story because it had a ton of momentum in September. off of news unrelated to earnings, and it's retraced the entire thing. So kind of similar to Beyond Meat in that sense. Huge run and gave it all back. Um, I suppose I'd prefer to see what they say, see what like the option pricing looks like maybe for like December or even like January options, because I do think there may be more potential from like a swing trade perspective. And I would actually prefer to see the option pricing come down a bit.
Test radio, test radio.
So
Hey
to me,
guys.
like I may put on something speculative just to be involved, but I think like there's more potential to look at like a swing trade post. So either way, I mean, I probably won't have a whole lot of risk on this going into earnings. All right. So that's it. So you can see still a lot going on. Actually, a lot of new IPOs too, which can really be some volatile movers around earnings. So I think it's gonna be a busy week. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information on trading earnings with options or swing trading with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options and play. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Stay well, and I will talk to you on Monday.